Yeah, just let me just establish our starting point. In the middle of the second section on Kuf Lamed Dalet, you might as well start a little bit earlier. The line begins with Kemanit Aruf Shtem. That see how many lines this is. About 7 lines from the top.
Good morning, Rabbi PALTIEL.
Good morning. Whose voice is that? Sounds like what?
Bush.
Bush? You're horse Bush.
Horse?
Yeah. Yeah, are you horse?
However, I do have a question that I'd like to ask to start with.
Join the line. Join the queue.
Okay, that's my question. Okay. Yeah, what's your question?
If I understood correctly,
Can you ask me what's my question?
Yeah, you're in line. There's somebody coming first.
Okay, fine.
No.
Somewhere. What's his name? Do I know you? Very familiar face.
Of course you know me. I'll introduce afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
so if I understood correctly, one of the nekudas you brought out was that the mashpia, when he re-teaches the concept, he goes together with the Talmud, and he brings himself to the dargah, the AYIN of the seichel, and from there he takes new haskalas and a new chayas to give it over to a Talmud. First, it's not correct.
This is correct. However, he's not doing it in order to get new chayas. He's doing that in order to be able to relate to the Talmud with this seichel. The Talmud doesn't know anything that he knows. So in order to find some kind of a commonality with the Talmud, he has to go down to the point, or the beginning of the seichel.
So I'm just saying, in the typical format, where someone prepares a shir and he writes down the kudas of the shir, how does that? I mean, you're suggesting that Rav. I mean, in other words, in that context, the Rav is not going to the AYIN of the seichel. He is being mitzamtzim the seichel to adjust the seichel for the Fierach Talmud. But here was a whole different nekuda of the Rav going to the AYIN of the seichel, and therefore, because he's going to AYIN of the seichel, he's getting the Talmud Yosem Nekuda.
This is why we discussed it a long time ago. There's a difference between the term mashpia and melamed or rav. The initial teaching from the rav, this Indian that he goes down to the point where he wants to feed it into the mushba, into the Talmud, that is a much later stage than what you're describing. If he's sitting there and preparing a shir, he's preparing a shir on his understanding. The only time when the Talmud comes into focus is when he says, okay, how am I going to explain this to him? But the shir itself is prepared on the basis of how the Rav learns. This Indian that we're saying that he is mashpia and metamili yesh mikulam, that comes much later. When does it come? Typically, he's sitting there and he's explaining the shir to the Talmud, and he's observing, and he's seeing how does the Talmud relate to it. That he really understands it. When he sees that he's missing the nakuda, that's when he goes into the depth of the sefer.
But then that's on derech kushas hatalmid.
No, making kushas. No,
Just his own assessment.
His own assessment. The Rav is constantly observing the Talmud. He sees how he relates, how he is accepting the shir, how he is participating in the shir.
But then why would that bring out a musculus? That only brings out a lower level of the seichel. Assessing the Talmud should bring out. I thought that the good of this AYIN is that Bepoil, once he goes into the AYIN, he takes from the AYIN according to his level.
When he sees that the Talmud is not getting the point, he does not therefore say, okay, leave it alone, I'm going to go at the lower level. That's not his conclusion. His conclusion is, how do I present the point in a manner that the Talmud will get it? And in order to find that mode of presentation, he has to find the source of this point from a stage where he doesn't have all the background that he has.
And that's a deeper stage. That's a deeper stage. If he finds the source, not where the Rav knows it from. The Rav finds it from a deeper state even.
Let me ask you a question, and maybe you understand what this is. You come to Crown Heights. You come to Crown Heights. You heard of Crown Heights, right? And you're looking, I want to build a house. So you're looking around where you can build a house. Where are you going to look? You're going to look along the streets where there are houses, where I can fit the house and so on. Let's say you come to an open field, undeveloped area, in the Midwest, and you want to start a community. How are you going to identify the place when you want to start a community? You will have to have a perspective, much broader view and see how this can develop eventually.
To remain on this call, press 1.
Let me give another chance.
Returning to the conference room.
Right?
No,
How are you going to identify the place? You're going to have to start from scratch and rebuild the whole view, project the whole community, and say, hey, if I do this can develop into a community.
The mashpia gains more from being in contact with someone who doesn't get it, at least initially.
That's what I'm saying. Because the Talmud demands a completely different approach from
these are not Talmidim who share the same viewpoints or background. These are Talmidim who are like coming from out there.
No, that's a different kashas. It's not because they have any objection. They just don't get it. They don't have the level of understanding.
Okay. I think Bush was waiting in line. No? Baruch, you there?
I am here.
Oh, hi, Baruch. Now your voice sounds better. All right.
I have to ask my question now.
Yeah. Your question? Oh, go ahead. I didn't know you had a question. Yes. Shoot away.
Yes, I have. Okay. If it's, I am not clear on the meaning of three key terms in this piece that we're doing.
Of what?
One of the
Key terms.
Terms that you're using.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the terms are seichel, ha'aras ha'seichel, and mahus ha'aras ha'seichel. Okay?
Yeah.
The mashpia is giving him a seichel, or his seichel, but he's not giving his seichel a cup 10 minutes of Arab. He's giving a ha'aras ha'seichel, but he's giving him the mahus ha'aras ha'seichel. Now, I can repeat those words, but I don't think I know what they mean.
All right, let's see if we can focus in and identify it. Seichel, the first point. What's so special about Seichel? We have much deeper qualities than Seichel. Like we said, Rotzen and Noinag is higher than Seichel. We have the Neshama, we have the life itself. And yet, Seichel is at the center of all discussions. And the reason for that is, Seichel is very, very unique, very special. Seichel is the means by which you can connect Neshama with world. From a worldly perspective, you can have a relationship with Neshama concepts. That's Seichel. This is why I always say that Seichel, the topmost point of Seichel is Chochmah. Even though the ultimate understanding and elaboration of Seichel is in Bina, not in Chochmah. But they say it has to start from Chochmah. The reason for that is that in order to reach and to relate to the truth of the Neshama, you have to do away with all your own mitzias. And you have to focus in and sense the presence of the Neshama. That's Chochmah. Chochmah is described as Bitul, or sight, which we discussed many times what sight is and so forth. So there you see the reality itself, even though you don't really understand what you're looking at. And yet, even though you don't understand what you're looking at, you relate to it. And the reason you relate to it is because this is what you want. This is what you want to connect to. This is without beetle. I want to get that which I do not understand. This is Chochmah. And this is the beginning of Seichel. So Seichel actually recognizes that there is the higher than Seichel, and then says this higher than Seichel. Actually, it is true even here when you don't have this, when you don't have this higher element. And this is where Seichel comes in and starts elaborating and bringing it into focus.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah, just one second. So I just want to use the illustration that we just used a moment before. When you see a developed community, you see where you come in, where you can begin putting up no homes. When you see a wilderness, you have to project in your seichel that this wilderness actually has a potential for a community development. And how do you identify that? This is seeing the community at the Chochmah level, on the projection level. And this is why we're saying that this is of tremendous significance, because you go to the source.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, just one more sentence.
Okay.
It is always very important, as we said many times. We sit here in this room, and sitting in this room completely embraces us, and we forget about the entire world and the entire around. This is where we are. And I asked a very point-blank question. I'd like we should understand the question. If this room were on Mars, exactly the same setting, could we have the similar relationship to this, the similar sense of calm, similar sense of belonging, if this room, the way it is set up, on Mars? No way, right? I mean, no way. Why not? What's missing? Nothing on the Seichel and Mitzias level is missing. The source is missing. The basis. It doesn't really belong there. The Rebbe should create. Ultimately, we take everything from the Creator. The Rebbe should create the earth for place. Adam belongs on earth, not on Mars. You cannot transform that. Here it can be a wilderness, but you still belong here. Over there it can be developed and you don't belong there. This belonging is identifying this place with the initial intent of the Creator, not the experience of being there. That's the source, that's the real source we're talking about. Yeah, okay, Baruch.
Okay, my question may seem very narrow-minded in relation to what you just said, but I'm asking the question in the context of the Mashpia is teaching or giving, that whatever, not teaching, giving over is a seichel. In other words, these three terms are usually, to me, the context of these three terms is that there's a Mashpia and there's a Mushpa. The Mashpia is giving over a seichel to the Mushpa. But what can be given over is the ha'ara of seichel, not the Mashpia's own seichel. The ha'ara of seichel. So what does it mean, a seichel, in that sentence, in that context? He's giving over a seichel. What does it mean when we say he's giving over a seichel? A concept, an idea, an inyan? What is it that, quote unquote, a seichel means in that context? And what does it mean to say that all he can give is a ha'ara of that seichel?
Okay, first of all, this point is quite clear. He can only give over that which he can put in words. You cannot give him what he thinks, and then further down he cannot give him the nuance, the truth as he senses it in himself. We just now we're talking about the Earth and Mars. Can you explain in words to someone who is not inaugurating to Seichel to understand the difference? There is no way, because all you can say is the heart of the Seichel. You cannot give him the reality of what does it mean to be a human. Can you make a human being out of an animal? With all the training in the world.
That's pointing to the level that cannot be communicated.
That's right, because the only thing that you communicate is a ha'ara. Like I said, you can't give him something that will change his reality.
That will
change his reality, his mahus.
Well,
you can give him a ha'ara of the seichel. Okay,
what can be put into words from a seichel is the ha'ara of the seichel.
Right, that's correct.
That can reveal a new reality for him, but not change his reality.
In other words, it's what you can express to a zulos, but that's not the seichel itself.
That's not the essence of the seichel.
Okay. So then we spoke about
that's not the mahus. But he is giving him what's called the mahus of the ha'ara.
So we said you repeatedly used the term the mahus ha-seichel. Mahus ha'ara means the basis of the ha'ara. So what's the difference between the basis of the
To
ha'ara
remain on this call, press 1.
and the seichel itself?
You can drop off that. He's on the video conference line.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can leave that.
Did you hear that?
Do it again. I was distracted. Go ahead.
You used the term repeatedly. Mahus ha-seichel, mahus ha'ara means the basis of the ha'ara. It's not the seichel, but he gives him the basis for the ha'ara. What's the difference between the basis for the ha'ara of the ha'ara and the seichel itself?
By the Rav himself, there is the moment. Number one, he is as bar seichel. He had gone through a lot of experiences of seichel. His whole approach to reality is on the seichel level. What does that mean? He recognizes that this is the Mebash's world. This is the created world. This is not the world that developed in the wild. There is reality behind everything that goes that is in the world. That he lives with. We pointed the story of the Rebbe going to a target shooting location. And interesting, the men that he was with, they were both shooting. I told you the story. I mean, you may have known the story. So, what's the matter? So the men that came with the Altois, he was missing every time. He's not trained in it. He missed the target every time. The Rebbe hit it every time.
He was a chassid of the Rebbe?
Huh?
He was a chassid of the Rebbe?
Yeah, he was a chassid.
Rebbe was a Rebbe?
Yeah.
Rebbe was already Rebbe?
Yeah, sure. They were very close. It was very close, a very very loving relationship. They were passing by. You were there. Leningrad says maybe we should try the target shooting. They were said okay. So they were shooting. He was shooting and shooting. Always in first side, and Rebbe hit every time the target. And we explained this is a phenomenal thing. How come the Rebbe hit the target every time? We explained you cannot hit a target if it is at a distance from you. In other words, if it's in a different reality. You can only hit it if you can relate to it directly. It's real. Then you can connect to it, and you can aim at it. And this was the difference. Rebbe, the entire world was one big reality. There were no strange places. And this is why he was able to relate to it perfectly and hit the target every time. Whereas an ordinary boss of a dam, it doesn't work this way. And if you want to hit a target at a distance, you have to train for it. So this is the important principle. By the mashpia, he sees the original reality in everything that he learns. Like the Baal Shem Tov says, when the leaf turns over by wind blowing, can we project the mindset of the person who can say such a thing?
The one who lives with such a reality.
Yeah, that's how you say it. He didn't say it theoretically. He was saying this is what it is. He was telling you what he sees. So this is the difference. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Well, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm not hearing in it where there's the definition of the mahus ha'ara.
I just told you the story with the principle that every leaf that turns over by the wind, and Mashav says further, if the leaf should turn over by wind or by foot, by somebody passing by and kicking it, this is also Hashgacha Pratis. Okay? What is the mahus of this ha'ara?
The story is a ha'ara.
The story is a ha'ara, that's
right.
For sure. What is the mahus? What is behind it? How can I said, can you project the mindset of a person who can actually verbalize such a thing?
Yes, and if I can, that's the mahus.
Yes,
the mindset.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And this, the mashpia can yes, give over.
He can't give over, but he is relating to it. That the many stages to that, but he clearly says to the mushpa, to the Talmud, this is not plain words. There is basis for it.
behind it.
There's something behind it, and tries to explain what it is. And this is what he gives to the Mahus Haor. In other words, the Mahus Haor is the most real of this Haor.
And yet that's not the Seichel itself.
It's not the essence? No.
It's not the Seichel as it is by the Mashpia.
That's right.
Even if you have the basis, the point is you don't see what the Mashpia sees.
That's right. Even if you have the basis, your thought in this whole entire begins from the words that the Mashpia gave you. Does not begin from the basis.
Right. So what does the basis give you that the words don't?
The basis places your house in the middle of a field, a wilderness.
I'm not sure that I understand that.
Come on, Baruch.
No,
A kop kan ich darauf
stay
stellen.
with you okay. All right. What is it about this basis? Because we're learning that because of this, and that this is different from Oyer, so even when the Mashpia isn't there or goes away in Gansu, the Mushba still has what he was given.
Right. Not only that, and he can continue to delve into it.
Is that because of the Mahus? That he has the Mahus?
That's right, because he has the Mahus of the Hora. He can continue to delve into the principle of the reality behind these words. Like we said, if you give him the understanding that a house on Earth is different than a house on Mars, that gives him a reality check.
Okay, I will stop there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, sorry, I also have a question.
Okay.
You just said that Seichel is the means to connect Neshama to the world. Now, in the world, I mean, last week you said clearly that there was two meanings to the word Seichel. There were two Seichel. There was the Seichel based on experience, and the Seichel that you were talking about since the beginning of the Shira. This Seichel that I've been subjected to because I wasn't raised like you were, this Seichel that you call
Let me just tell you, nobody is raised, and that you raise yourself. And you get the point, and you start living. Nobody can. This cannot be input into it. It can be pointed to. I can make some difference. Go ahead.
Now,
I understand.
I just want to say this Seichel is based on science and philosophy that you always denigrate and deny. Huh? Psychology. How do, because these categories, these concepts are related to how the world functions and is based on. I'm talking about technology or whatever. How do you relate this whole world into the Seichel you're defining now? Because it's based on other bases.
Fair enough. Yes, that's really. Not only is it a challenge, the most significant part of this, that it interferes.
Could you repeat Daniel's question?
Daniel's question is very simple. He was trained on Seichel Chitzoni. We said the other day, the term "prove it" is the opposite of Seichel. Seichel means you understand it from the inception, from the spirit of it. Prove it is nothing. So you know that this is how it appears, but it doesn't tell you anything about the reality.
Yeah, but some sciences like mathematics or physics are based on proof. If you come up with an equation, you can say it's true if you prove it. That's the thing I'm referring to as the other seichel.
One time, we took time and I explained, where is the seichel in mathematics? It's a very technical thing. Where is the seichel in mathematics? So we explain on this. You say 2 times 2 equals to 4.
Mm-hmm.
What is the implication in this? 2 times 2 equals to 4. It cannot be anything else. 2 times 2 it cannot be 5, cannot be 7, cannot be 3. What is the implication? What's the seichel behind this? Huh?
That's for the new Metzius.
The seichel behind this is that let me step away for a moment. By Yasin Halacha, there's a big difference. You're davening by yourself, or you're davening with a minyan. What's the difference? This is 10 times 1. And yet 10 make a complete difference. In mathematics, it makes no difference. So the idea that the value of something does not change with the increase of volume is a very important principle, which is not true in the reality of the world. It absolutely changes. If you have a lot of 10 by 10, 10 feet by 10 feet, or you have a lot 20 by 20, is it different? Of course it's different. 10 by 10 you cannot do anything with it. Make a little playground. 20 by 20 you can build a house. When you come from a reality perspective, it's a completely different thing. Mathematically, you would say, no, it's the same thing. Our time is almost up, right?
We should go inside at least for a few minutes.
What?
A few minutes.
Okay, fine.
Can I go back to
All right. Yes, you could.
I'm sorry, but
We're still there anyway, so might as well.
What type of...
Right? No?
Close.
Huh? Close.
Pekarsky.
Huh?
Pekarsky.
Because. Wow. Are you getting young? Am I getting old?
We're all getting older.
Yeah.
What is this Etzem Hashpah of Poil in the Rav? Amkus, what type of seichel?
You mean, I would say because...
I'm going back to what I originally... Levad zois.
What? Etzem Hashpah.
So what does this mean? Amkus, what type of seichel does it mean? Because is it that the Rav is going back from a different angle or from a lower angle?
But this is referring to Etzem Hashpah, Be'el Darav, is not depth, is not anything you can elaborate on. But this, Das by the Rav, is let me see if I can. Going back to the moshel, to a house on Earth or a house on Mars. What is the difference? It's exactly the same house. But on earth, you sense the reality, it belongs there. That reality you cannot teach. That reality a human being has because he's a human being. Because he senses that he was put here by a force, by a principle, by a spirit much superior to the world. He didn't develop on earth. It was put on earth. That sense, which is beyond the experience itself, but that which enables that experience, that with the source of it, this is what the mashpia comes to face when he goes to be mashpia to the Talmud. Because he knows what does the Talmud know? The Talmud has none of that. He knows only one thing, that this house is on earth.